Hey guys, it's G, and today we're making a spiral swipe. The spiral swipe is one of my favorite ways to do a swipe, mainly because it creates a very interesting composition, and I think one of the best ways to pull this off is on a round canvas because then it also complements the shape of the composition. So the colors I'm using today are a brilliant purple, the red violet light from Amsterdam. I'm also using, I believe it's primary yellow from Art Creations, a generic gold acrylic paint. And then for the color I'm swiping with, I'm using a green turquoise. And I'll be using silicone in those. The white is also a relatively cheap craft paint. And one of the things, I kind of did this by accident here, but this is a good opportunity to kind of explain it to you. As you can see, I kind of just put the paint straight on the canvas and didn't use a wet base. I didn't intend to do this, so this sort of happened. And one of the downsides to doing this, while I did end up using half the amount of paint I was going to use in the painting, the downside comes from trying to spread this paint out. So especially now that we're going to apply pressure with a swipe tool, you may end up with uneven bits of paint. Whereas if you have a wet base first and then put your colors on top of that, it becomes very easy for these colors to glide around. But more on this shortly. I'm just evening out the sides now with the base color. And while I do that, this is a good opportunity to let you know that I've released a comprehensive online course. It's self-paced for learning acrylic pouring. This course is essentially, as you know, I was teaching one-to-one sessions online, and I've kind of distilled all of that experience from teaching people and hearing about their problems into this one online course. Now, as you know, I already explained in pretty great detail on YouTube, but there is actually a step above this which kind of takes into account all the problems faced by other people as opposed to all the problems that I face myself. So if you do want to check that out, I'll leave the link in the top right corner in the info card, and you can also find it in the description box below. It'll also be in the pinned comments. So what I'm doing now is I'm adding a little bit more color on top. I don't want the swipe to just be swipe color over purple, then over pink, then over yellow. I want them to kind of mingle a little bit. So I'm applying a little bit more of every color. And I'm going to add a gold paint as well to kind of have some sparkle in there. The gold paint isn't, it's relatively semi-transparent sort of. So it doesn't create color so much as it creates sparkle as it blends with the other colors on the swipe. Before you do your swipe, make sure tilt the painting around, look for any like solid bits, gunk, anything in there that might disrupt the painting later, because it's easier to get it out now. And now it's time for the swipe. So I'm using the number 15 tool from Fluid Art Co. It has a curve, so it makes it great for the spirals. And I'm just putting it on the back, giving the spinner a twist, and just kind of trying to keep my hand steady and moving it outwards. Now, see, because we didn't use that much paint, so you see the swipe tool runs out of paint before the edge of the canvas. If we had gone full base paint of white and then created the color gradient on top of that and kind of took it outwards a little bit more than we had, we should have been able to cover the whole canvas before we spin it to expand it. So at this point we introduce heat with our little torch to encourage the paint to the top. We're working with a medium consistency, so cells don't necessarily jump to the surface immediately. If it were thinner, perhaps that would work, but thinner will also warp a lot when you spin it, so you kind of have to balance it out. If you swipe with relatively thin paints, you're going to want to minimize the amount of tilting or moving it around that you do afterwards, just because thin paints don't really hold shape and composition that well. So we'll give this a spin, a counter spin, and so on, giving it a little bit of heat, and you should see cells start to pop up. And the more we spread the paint out, the thinner the individual layers become, the easier it is for the silicone to go to the surface. I just love this blend of colors. The purple, pink, and yellow always create this sense of warmth, and then the green turquoise in there is just such a strong contrast against those. Hopefully, when you add the silicone to the turquoise, you minimize the amount of it canceling out the other colors, because that's the thing with opposite colors. The contrast is great, but if they blend, they create neutral, so you get the opposite of what you wanted to do. And there you go. Look at how many cells have popped up. They were all really tiny in the beginning, but just as it expands, they get to the surface. Now, the only way this would be better, in my opinion, is if I had used a little bit more paint. As you can see, I'm struggling to meet the sides. And this is why I always say more paint is better, because when you're under, it's very hard to fix post, as you can see here. But, you know, I'm not mad at it. I like the cells, I like the composition. I would have hoped for less shooting outwards, but that's what happens when you don't have enough paint. You'll notice the cells look like they're shooting outwards towards the outside, but the middle ones seem fine. And yeah, check out my online course if you're looking to learn acrylic pouring. All the course details are listed on the website, and you should also know you can pay through a 3-month payment plan, and we currently have a 15% discount using Black Friday at checkout. Black Friday with no spaces. So check it out and let me know. Thank you for watching this video. This was G. See you soon.